This is an Ellis Mowers and Mower small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. On today's repair, we're going to look at this Lowes MTD push mower from the 90s. It's in pretty good shape for how old it is. I've had it a little while. The reason why it kind of got tucked to the back was because it runs, but the problem is it's acting like it's smoking a little bit, and it's acting like it's running on choke, like it's getting too much fuel. After doing the generator video a couple of videos back, I potentially thought that we may have an issue with maybe the intake valve on this one instead of the exhaust valve, since it's got good compression. I'm curious to find out myself. I'm going to pop in there, see if we can get this exhaust off and see what the valves look like in terms of the valve clearances, and we might just have to do a valve grind on it. I'm not sure. I do know that it is blowing excess gas out of the air filter. I have tried multiple carburetors and all doing the same thing. It shouldn't be doing that. The only thing it should be doing is running rich, but it's blowing it back out the intake, which means somehow, some way, some compression from the engine is blowing back out the intake and causing this issue. That's what I suspect. We're going to get into it and see what happens. As always, thank y'all for watching. This is a Briggs 5.25 Quantum engine. So it's a very common engine, made anywhere from the early 90s all the way up until 2012 or so. So let's go ahead and get started, see what we can find out with this thing. So before I get started, I'll show you an example of how it's running. So it just sits there and smokes, and if you took the air filter off, you'd see gas blowing out the intake there. Air filter is in good shape. It runs better without the air filter, I think. We'll double check that real quick here as well. But it's like it's pulling up too much gas. So whenever you pull some of that, add that air filter, even a new air filter, I've tried it, still having an issue with the gas getting pulled up through the carburetor and being shot out the intake a little bit. So like I said, let me get it on the table. We'll see what the valves look like in terms of clearances and if we need to do a grind on them. So I don't think you have to take off any of the top of the engine to at least inspect what the valve clearances are. So I'm gonna push these tabs back on the exhaust here. Exhaust is probably still a little bit warm, so I'm gonna be careful. Ideally, you do want to do this on a cold engine. This has a little exhaust shield on the side, and 8 5/16 for that. All right, and there, that slides off. Now should I need a 7/16. Be careful with these, you don't want them to break off. Okay, so yeah, she's, excuse me, burning a lot of oil through the exhaust. Kind of hot, so we're gonna be careful with trying to get it off of here. All right, so that's down. So what that does is that gives us access to this little panel here. It will take 2 3/8 to get this one off. Probably gonna leak a little bit of oil. I don't know if I can get a jack stand or something. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad. We can clean up a little oil spill, all right? 5-horse Briggs didn't leak that much oil whenever I pulled this off. Hopefully our gasket will stay when we pull it. Okay, so that's good. Now we're just gonna check everything in here, guys. I'm thinking we just may have I don't think it'd be a PCV issue, would it? We could probably replace that just in case, but that's an easy thing to fix. It's just like burnt oil and stuff. Almost like a timing issue, but it's not. I have checked the flywheel key, if I remember correctly, on this, and it was fine. Grab a feeler gauge. We're going to check the valves. Pull the spark plug just so that we're not having issues there. I think I've tried multiple spark plugs to no avail. I've tried a bunch of stuff off camera months ago. Alright, so we're just going to pull it to make sure one valve. Let me set y'all up a little bit better here. A little bit better view there. We're going to pull you with one valve here. What's going to happen is, let's see. Just going to get like a 5/1000 feeler in here. We're just going to check the clearances of everything. So that exhaust valve, let's pull it to make sure that it's not open. That exhaust valve is coming back a little tight. It's alright. We could knock it down a tiny bit. And then the intake, let's see. I wonder if the intake valve's too tight. Can't get a feeler gauge in there, I know that. And so the exhaust valve is, let's see, make sure that both of the valves are closed. Yeah, I think that might be our issue, guys. Let me just pull the head off here. We might pull the intake valve. The exhaust valve seems like it's okay. Kind of makes sense that it would be the intake valve. And we'll see what we end up with. In terms of getting the head off, you don't even have to take this top cover off. I'm gonna get a 1/2 inch and just take all these bolts off right here. You can take off your spark plug as well, just for a little bit of extra room. And we'll see what the situation is with this thing. All right, so we're gonna get already got the 3/8 that were up top here, all the remaining 1/2 inch. We're gonna get this head off. Hopefully we can get it off without having to. There we go. So we got a bunch of carbon on this and a decent amount of oil too. Cylinder wall feels okay though. So could it just be just a big old oil burner? I mean, we've got a bunch of just junk here. I don't feel any ridiculous movement in the cylinder. Yeah, look at that, guys. So make sure the valve is in the closed position for the machine. It looked like it was trying to turn. These valves are just nasty too. I'm thinking that intake valve is not seated properly, or not seating properly. Might knock them both down while I'm in here just a tiny bit. The intake needs more than the exhaust, I know that. Get my valve tool over here and I'll do my best to show you what I do here in order to get these valves off. Just got to get back here. There's a slot that they come through in order to get them off, which you got to find. And once you find that, the valve spring will just pop right out. Just, let's see, just like that. So a little bit of oil on the valve spring itself. We'll pull this engine over. So there we go. That allows the valve to come out, and we can just pull the valve out just like so. Carbon like goodness knows what, because it's been running rich or something along those lines. Getting gas in there, not the most ideal situation. So I'm going to clean this valve off, take it to the grinder. Y'all just saw that in the previous video. Grind a little bit off of it and put it back on. Might take the exhaust valve and knock it down just a tiny bit too, although it has good clearance. So we'll see what happens here, but I'll be right back. So I'm going to put this valve back on. It's never that easy of a task to do, but you got to get back under this little valve cup thing in order to get. Okay, so now we can push the valve back. Let me get a screwdriver, which I have right here actually. I try and keep leverage on this so that I can get this back out. Oh, got it stuck. Alright, I can get this back out and get this side back in. And it's not the prettiest, but find your slot in the valve, which is, where are we at, right? It's like right there. And push it back into place. I think we just got it. Well, we're almost there. Okay. Pull the spring back. Come on now. So it's always a little challenging with these valve springs in order to get them back, but just got to get them reseated on that base. So I'm going to get that seated back again. I don't know why it's being difficult with me. Probably because it's too far back there. But I will get that seated and get it back in place. And I think it might be off the other side there. And once I get that seated, well, I'll put everything back together because the exhaust valve is good. I'll check the clearance, and then we should be good to go in terms of trying to get everything back on here. So we're going to put everything back together now. Check the clearances. They're a little bit grind it down a little bit too much, but I think we're going to be all right still. I think the worst case is that I'm just going to have a little bit of valve noise associated with it. Here's to hoping that this is all that it needs. I got the valve spring back seated correctly, so we're going to just put everything back on just like we had it. Y'all kind of saw that earlier, but it doesn't hurt to show it on cam. Hoping that this fixes it. We're gonna... Okay. Now I should be able to slide the head back on it as well. And it's just a bunch of bolts I'm going to put back in. Get that. Get all the threads started. Fairly easy here, luckily. Just want to get all your threads started on all your bolts, and then we'll slap everything back together. These do have torque specs. You can look them up. A lot of times I just hit them with the impact. I'll double check those with a socket and ratchet here in just a second. Put these back on. I really do hope this fixes it. I think that intake valve was just a little bit tight. Usually you see the exhaust valves be the ones that are tight. As long as everything is good, all this junk and stuff in the engine should eventually flush its way out. Put the muffler back on here. I'll wait to put that shield back on just in case I need to revisit all this. Experimental stuff here for me. Never really, I've done valve grinds for exhaust valves. This one just has a little bit different characteristics that I haven't seen before. I figured just in case I am right, I wanted to get it on camera. Y'all love hanging out with me in the garage here. All, almost 7,000 of y'all now, which is kind of cool. Let's put the plug back in it. It will be a burner for a little bit because there's still a little bit of oil in the cylinder, but just needed to get it to run smoothly. That's the goal. Let me get it down and see what happens. Alright, so here we go. I'm anticipating a little bit of valve noise, but hopefully it runs better. We're going to try without the air filter first, and then we'll put the air filter on it. Prime it. Let's see about the air filter. Less, but it's surging a little bit. Just thought, how's the blade look on it? Blade's alright. Kind of low though. The good news is I've got a ton of these blades, so I'm going to take and put another blade on it and see if that does anything to it, and see if we can get it running better. If it is running, even though it's surging now, I think I went a little bit too far on the valve. It is running better. It's not choking itself out. So we got the opposite problem. I think if I give it a little bit more fuel, it might sort itself out. We'll experiment though. So I drilled out the jet to 7 thousandths. I'll give you an example of what I did here in just a second. I also think that I ground down the intake valve a little bit too much because I think there's a little bit too much clearance. I think that's partially contributing to the issues that I have when it comes to the running. I sped up the engine a little bit. It was still surging some. I tried a jet that had 8 thousandths in it, but it was still, like I said, it was still surging some. 8 thousandths was choking it. This one was at like 6 or 65 thousandths of an inch, I think is what it was. Or 65 hundredths, I can't remember. Whatever that micro drill bit is. Sped it up a little bit. It seems that the surging has kind of been mitigated a little bit. So hopefully that's a good sign. I'll let y'all hear it run. We'll walk around it real quick as well. noise in it. But when I do this, there we go. I need to knock it down just a little bit. Better, ain't it? It's like cracking a code sometimes, guys. Let me show you that demonstration of what I did to the jet real quick. We'll wrap this video up next. Looks to be a little bit of a mess here, but either way. So I have my jet assortment. All I did, I guess this would be, I don't know if these are in thousandths or hundredths or exactly. I call them thousandths. It's probably, what, 7/30 seconds. And maybe hundredths. I took, you know, just my small drill bit here. Took the jet, and just popped it in, turned it. You can't go too far, just like a valve adjustment. You can't go too far, it's not going to run very well. So we've done that, and put it back in. I tried one, so I have a bunch of different jets here. So I tried one that was 8 thousandths or 8 hundredths, whatever the 0.8 is on this. 8 tenths of an inch, I guess. I don't know. Have to double check. But either way, took a micro drill bit, matched the number up to kind of what the hole size was, went maybe like one bigger, or you know, like if it was a 0.6, you'd go to like a 0.65 or a 0.7. Just very small increments. It doesn't take much, and it looks like we got it sorted, so that's awesome. And we'll wrap this video up. So there it is, guys. This mower, again, doesn't really even need to clean. I can just take pictures and let it roll as it is, already clean. Like I said, I tried to work on it a few months ago, and after basically just trying some carburetors and some other combinations and whatnot, nothing really worked out for it. And so I just put it in the back of the shed, and I said I'll get to it one day, and here we are. I don't know how many months later, 6, 7, 8 months, and took it out. Y'all saw what it was doing. It was just kind of putting, smoking, and things like that. Through our troubleshooting, I determined that it was a bad intake, or an intake valve that was too tight, so it was smoking and shooting gas out of the carburetor, and that indicated to me that the intake valve wasn't closing all the way, because it was allowing oil to get past the cylinder into the intake and out to the exhaust, and just wasn't mixing very well with the oil and the fuel ratio, causing all kinds of problems. I ground down, I will admit, I think I ground down the intake valve a little bit too much. The valve is a little loud. It works fine though. It was surging a little bit. We sped the engine up a little bit, drilled the jet out, and I think we compensated for that. So there are ways to compensate. Just be careful, because it's really easy to do. Y'all saw how, well, I didn't show the grinding portion of this, but I didn't have it on the grinder for more than about 4 or 5 seconds, and ground it down arguably a little bit too much. So just kind of is what it is. cheap little push mower here. Nothing crazy nothing crazy on it. Just figured I didn't really want to get anything big this afternoon. I wasn't really feeling it, so I said, let's pull this thing out, see what happens. It turns out we've got something that I can probably sell for about 50 bucks. Whoop-de-doo. You can get a new blade with it because I got all them blades, them old blades from that True Value hardware for like $1 a piece. So I ain't really got any money in it. Kind of needed a blade. Slap a blade on it. I might even throw it up for 60 and see what happens. I've missed doing these push mowers, guys. Y'all have done a ton of riders and other big equipment here recently, and I forget how simple the push mowers are to fix, diagnose. You don't get frustrated because you don't have that much money in them, you don't have much time in them. So I really hope y'all enjoyed getting back to the roots here on this video, and enjoyed this old Lowes by MTD push mower, getting it back running to a more respectable speed, more respectably again. Thank y'all again for watching. Thanks for all the support as always, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.